I found out my boyfriend has disgusting, exposed, revealing photos of his fully grown sister, and he still keeps them. But then I found out why, and I was horrified. Here's what happened. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk on YouTube and hit the bell to turn on notifications. My ex Jake and I broke up in September of 2021. He was a complete jerk, and I should have ended it much sooner than I did. He would gaslight me, he bled me dry financially, and near the end, he even tried to do the unspeakable act to me. I left a few weeks earlier, and I can't even begin to describe how much I hate him for what he put me through. Roughly a year before we ended it, he was on 4chan. He is obsessed with the horrible side of the site, if that highlights what a creep he is, and someone posted a picture, a private picture of a woman, but in that photo, she was still partially covering herself. He immediately realized that it was his sister. Apparently, there is a game that they play on that site where the author will say, if the stamp on your comments is a certain number, I'll post the pictures. In this case, it was 711. Jake tried twice and he hit the number. The pics were then posted. 3 of them, fully private pics. He thinks that his sister, let's call her Jen, was dating someone in college, did a video stream, and the guy did a screen grab of it. He thinks that must have happened about 5 years prior to the pics being shared online. He also thinks that the guy in question around that time is Jen's current husband. He was the only one to his knowledge that she was dating. Jake thinks that he may have uploaded the pictures. Jen and her husband have had a very difficult marriage. She wants to be a stay-at-home mom, and her husband works tirelessly to keep up with her demands. All of this, besides Jen's clearly troubled marriage, is just a theory. I have no context outside of his guesses. He saved the pictures to his phone, and I was immediately freaked out. I told him to delete them, that it was bad enough that they had been uploaded to the internet, and the post at that point had vanished, so it wouldn't be a simple task of reporting it. He refused. He said he may need the pictures at some point in the future. What? And I had no way of getting the pictures deleted myself, so I figured I would keep trying to convince him to do the right thing over time. At one point, I forgot about the photos while dealing with the rest of his nonsense, and he broke his phone screen. He needed help saving his data, so I let him upload everything to my Microsoft 365 drive that I never use, and then re-download everything back to his phone. Keep in mind, I had forgotten about the pictures. Some family background is needed now. Jake and Jen are the only 2 children. Their parents divorced when they were very young, but both stayed in their lives. Jake's mother divorced her very abusive father and decided to seek treatment for the trauma that he caused her. She lost custody of them to their father and spent the next 10 years working on herself, therapy, anxiety meds, everything. She was not this broken person before she met their father. I met her and I loved her so much. Compared to the stories that I was told about her neglecting her children, she was 100% not what I imagined. She wished that she could have been more involved in her children's lives. She saw them every weekend, but she knew that she couldn't mentally handle being there like they needed. She also works tirelessly to connect with them now as adults. Their father essentially spent those 10 years pitting them against each other. Brother against sister, children against mother. Jake followed in his father's footsteps of being an abusive and manipulative person. Jen became obsessed with being daddy's perfect little white picket fence daughter and got married right out of college and immediately started pumping out grandkids. They both still treat their mother very poorly. Jen is also a terrible person in my opinion and treated me horribly during the few times we interacted. I love trying new things. I ride motorcycles and I am very much a social butterfly. Their extended family adored having me over and would insist on me being invited to family events. During those events, Jen never hesitated to try and make my pursuits of happiness, starting a business, building a home from the ground up, getting a dog, traveling, etc., look like childish and reckless pipe dreams, all while talking trash behind my back. Sidebar, after I broke up with Jake, I accomplished everything that I wanted. Take that, Jen. We were in no way friends. Now, Jake and Jen's father has far more debt than he has cash, but he does have a house. The father has already said that he would give the house to whoever had kids first. Classic. Which ended up being Jen, who is now on her 3rd child. She already has a house of her own, and so does Jake. Jake didn't really bring this up when Jen started having kids, but anytime his father brought up how the handover his home would go, Jake became oddly quiet. Flat out, a part of me thinks he wants to use the pictures to blackmail Jen into handing over the house after his father dies. And that brings us to the present day. I moved out and recently started receiving alerts from Microsoft 365, the look back on this moment kind of emails that just send picture flashbacks. At first, I didn't recognize the photos, and then it all came back to me that Jake had saved the forgotten pictures to my account and must have forgotten to clear his data after he used it. But that means now I have the pictures too. Now, like I said, I don't like Jen in the slightest, but I would never even dream of trying to use these pictures against her in any way, even though she treated me like trash. She may have been horrible, but I am not that kind of person. I don't think anyone should have these sort of pictures of another person without their knowledge. But what do I do now? If I just told Jen, she would not believe me. A part of me doesn't care if she does, but a bigger part of me knows that I won't be able to shake this haunting feeling that my ex is just waiting to blackmail her, and if I don't have proof, he's going to destroy her family for something that she did when she was younger. I have no love for this woman, but that is pretty messed up. The other part of me wants to delete the photos, tell her, and let her decide whether she wants to believe me and pursue it, or ignore me entirely to her own peril. The last part of me says this isn't any of my business, and even if I'm trying to help, I could cause the exact same fallout as her brother by revealing what I do know, with or without proof. So what should I do? Tell Jen and share the proof? Tell Jen and delete the photos now and move on with my very happy life and just hope I forget about this over time like I did before? Please tell me what I should do. So because there was so much advice given, the OP actually responded to some of these, which gives insight into how she was thinking about the whole situation. So I'll include some of the comments to give a little bit of context to what the OP ends up saying. The top response was, do not tell her. She will flip it on you like you had something to do with it, and her scumbag brother will deny everything. Just delete everything off your computer and your accounts and be done with those people. The OP says, this is seriously what I'm leaning towards. I really don't want to get involved, but my closer friends are split. Some say that since I know, I should speak up. Others say forget about this and move on. All of them know him personally and have heard the horror stories about his family, but are split 50-50 on what I should do. The OP says that she thinks, well, what if he destroys her family and it crushes her mother? I would hate for her to be hurt by this, but I also think that if I tell her, it will result in the same thing. And lastly, there was a response that said, I get that you feel you have perhaps in your hands the ability to do some noble deed, but we're not talking about rectifying an unspeakable act or a murder here. We're just talking about some private pictures, and everyone on earth is that way at some point in the day, like when you take a shower. If it wasn't America, nobody would even be hung up about these silly pictures. Europeans will take pictures of the family at the beach, and there'll be 3 generations of people in various degrees of undress, and nobody thinks twice about it. This is not something for you to stick your neck out about. The OP's response here was, I had to sit on this for a minute. I really appreciate the perspective you are bringing. Personally, if someone shared my pictures, I could hardly care. I think she would certainly care though. Regardless of whether he reveals it or I do, I think it will result in the same fallout. If her husband was in fact the one that uploaded the pictures, she will be able to tell immediately, and it would tear the family apart either way. Despite my dislike for her, I do not want a hand in that if Jake's guesses are accurate. If his guesses aren't accurate, I'll just be setting myself up for harassment from him because I'm the only other person who knows. Either way, I will hurt myself if I tell her about the photos, and I think that I've been hurt enough by these people. I am going to delete the photos. So after that back and forth, there was actually an update. It didn't take long for someone to write what I needed to hear. Jake doesn't live far from me now, and if I were to tell Jen about the photos, his behavior is too unpredictable, so I could be putting my safety at risk if he chooses to retaliate. I also realized that if her husband was the person that posted the photos, me telling her would in no way prevent the family from having a massive fallout, and I don't want to have a hand in that. If he wasn't the one that posted the pics, I still risk exposing myself since I'm the only one that knows about them and my ex is a 4chan weirdo. So I'm going to delete the pictures and move on. They can play their games of manipulation, but I finally managed to break free and I am not going back. Am I the jerk for staying out of it? This situation is gross and bizarre. It doesn't seem like anyone thinks that this is as weird as I think it is. This guy has these pictures of his sister that he keeps. No matter what the reason is for keeping them, that is weird and gross, and will probably inevitably end his relationship with his sister if she figures this out, whether it be from the OP or by him trying to blackmail her like the OP seems to think that Jake is going to do. So if the original poster, the OP's theory here is correct, and Jake is keeping these pictures to blackmail the sister into giving him their dad's house, first of all, all, they're never going to speak again. He's going to permanently ruin his relationship. And I guess the original poster would probably say, well, the dad had already pitted them against each other, but this is way too far. This is extreme creepy territory. But why would that blackmail even work if it ends up being the 50% chance that these originated from her current husband, from Jen's current husband? It just doesn't logistically make sense. What would actually happen in that scenario is she would go, oh my God, husband, I can't believe you did this. But then he already knows that these pictures are out, so then Jake's plan falls apart because he no longer has leverage. The only way that maybe it would work is if these were photos for another guy and she didn't want her current husband to find out so bad that she would give away the dad's house. But no matter what happens, he's lost his relationship with her forever. And that's the OP's assumption, that Jake is going to blackmail her. If he's not going to blackmail her, I don't even want to think about why he has these. You guys let me know what your theories are down below. Do you think that the OP should stay out of this or reveal everything to Jen, and jerk or not a jerk, and why? Am I the jerk for yelling at my mom that I hate Harry Potter and to let me live my own life? As the title suggests, my mom is a huge Harry Potter nut. She and my dad actually met in Harry Potter IRC. It's like Discord but for older people in the early 2000s, and got married and had kids, and from day one decided to embarrass us for life by naming us after Harry Potter and Star Wars characters. It's honestly been hell. I have a stupid name, and since we were little, my parents have forced stuff like Harry Potter, Star Wars, Marvel movies, etc., etc. down our throats. Everything is about dragons and magic and blah, 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 blah. I'm so sick of it. Every birthday, every holiday, everything is just organized around fandom. So, like every Christmas, during the days leading up to Christmas, we have to sit down every night and watch the Harry Potter movies. It is so boring. I can usually get away with knitting or drawing on my iPad during this, but this year my mom was like, let's just have a technology and distraction-free night every night. I instead arranged to go over to my friend Missy's house for 2 nights. Missy's family is normal and likes things a normal amount. My mom got really mad and started talking about how it's a family tradition and how I'm basically rejecting her, and went on her whole thing about how you wouldn't exist if it wasn't for Harry Potter. I finally had it, and I just yelled, nobody cares that you were a big name in the Harry Potter fan club. I don't like Harry Potter. I don't like Star Wars. I hate Marvel movies. They're all so boring. Please just let me have my own interests. I couldn't help it. I just started crying because I was so frustrated that everything always has to be about Harry Potter this or Star Wars that. And now we're all older and they started doing this for Game of Thrones. Everything is centered around some kind of movie or TV show or book series. Just once, I want my family to band around something that doesn't have to do with media or these nerdy things. We live in Utah, where we have like 5 national parks, and even though I ask every year for my birthday, I have never even been to the Arches. Well, my sister called me saying that my mom was angry and to just come home and stop with the theatrics. I told her that I'm sick of having all this old nerd stuff crammed down my throat, and I just once want to have a normal time watching normal Christmas movies and not having to pause for lightsaber battles. Am I the jerk? If the OP's name is based on a Harry Potter character, some of them are kind of cool. She got Luna as a name. Hermione, on the other hand, might be too associated with Harry Potter to ever escape from it. They could have named her after the owl Hedwig, or just named her Dudley. But anyway, even though it seems like most kids would probably love to be in that environment, this obviously went way too far. If they have to rewatch every single Harry Potter movie every single year for their entire lives, that might end up getting a bit old, especially if these kids don't have an interest in Harry Potter or Star Wars or Marvel or whatever it is they're watching. It seems like the parents aren't hearing what the OP, the daughter here, is saying, but instead trying to diminish the whole thing because she got emotional, and because she got emotional, they're just disregarding it as theatrics, which is pretty much trying to invalidate what the daughter is trying to explain to them, that she wants to have her own identity, she doesn't like these things. And as hurtful as that might be for the parents to hear that, they gotta at least hear her. I mean, she obviously wants to go to these national parks and the parents don't seem interested in that, so maybe they can do that as a family too. So how would you handle a situation like this if you really didn't like whatever your parents' interests were and they were trying to make that your family's thing that you guys do together? Let me know down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. Am I the jerk for cleaning out the fridge without telling my husband? My husband brought home a metal box that he checks on often during the day when it's in the fridge. When asked about it, he said it contains some freshly picked olives his friend Jason got from his uncle's farm and wanted my husband to keep it until he gets back from his business trip. I had no problem with with him keeping it safe at the bottom of the fridge, my husband always asks me to be cautious with the box and not open it, as it would be rude to touch other people's stuff. Yesterday, I decided to clean out the fridge, which took me about 2 hours, from unplugging the fridge, emptying all the items, groceries, vegetables, containers, and washing and cleaning out the inside of it, and then letting it settle before plugging it in again. I took the box my husband brought out of the fridge and placed it on the kitchen island alongside the other containers. While I was working, I received a video call via WhatsApp from my husband while at work, feeling bored, asking what I was doing. I showed him I was cleaning out the fridge and he freaked out. He started asking about the metal box. I was confused, so I told him to calm down and showed him where the box was. He got mad, telling me I shouldn't have cleaned out the fridge nor even touched the box without telling him. I again tried to ask him to calm down, as I saw no big deal with it. His precious box was safe and sound, but he went on a rant about how the box needed to be put back inside the fridge ASAP, and he told me to plug the fridge in right then and there, but I couldn't because it was wet, and I still wasn't finished with cleaning the other parts of the fridge. Apparently, I pissed him off by stalling and he hung up, and 30 minutes later he came home and pitched a hissy fit, saying I should have picked a time where he was home to clean out the fridge so that he could take the box somewhere else to keep it cool. I said, so what? It was sitting out of the fridge for barely 2 hours, and olives can stand being outside of the fridge for a much longer period. He said, I don't get it, and took the box to leave with it. I asked where he was taking it, and he said he needed to get back to work and he had no time to explain. I shrugged this whole thing off, but he came back with it in the evening and put it in the fridge, and then complained about me cleaning the fridge without telling him and acting dismissive of his opinions. I argued, what opinions could he have on cleaning out the fridge? He argued back, saying that he promised Jason he'd keep his olives in good condition and that I should have just told him. End of story. I do wonder if I messed up. He usually doesn't get that mad unless I've messed up, and I think I have. For a little more context, yes, I am aware that my husband is acting overprotective of this box, but he always acts like that whenever somebody asks him to keep an item safe for them, like furniture or car parts. And second of all, no, I haven't seen those olives myself and haven't opened the box because I didn't think I would even have to. But my husband tends to be overprotective of his friends' belongings, so I didn't give it much thought. So am I the jerk for cleaning out the fridge without telling my husband and moving this metal box that he's watching over on the kitchen island? This sounds like the first scene to a very interesting movie, where whatever is in that box ends up being the entire plot device that pushes the story of the movie forward. Is the husband secretly storing drugs in the box? Then why would he need to keep it cool? Maybe it's some sort of alien fetus that he has to transport, like in that Hideo Kojima game. Someone else said that they had a situation where an ex of theirs had a friend who was on methadone, and when he visited, he had a fridge lockbox that contained his prescription. So this whole story made them think of that. But the question still is, what's in the box? Let me know what your best theories are down below, and jerk or not a jerk, and why. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories in this series, use the playlist at the top of the description. And next time you live stream, use the cream of the crop music. Search for Cream of the Stream on Spotify or whatever music platform you use for copyright-free music to use for your stream. It's free. Cream of the Stream. Either way, thanks a lot for listening. I'll see you guys next time.